Welcome to the chosen bloom. Lies are not silent. They live in the dark and they cry out until someone answers. Chosen one, listen, there is a person now whose chest caves beneath the weight of their own falsehoods. They are unraveling, begging for anyone to declare what is true, that you never sought to harm another soul. Picture how they built their case, a fragile house of cards made from gossip, rumor, and invented stories. They smiled as if the structure would last forever, but the wind of truth has come, impartial and inevitable, and the cards are scattering. The universe has a way of restoring balance. Truth requires little to breathe. Lies demand constant breath to live. This is not mere moralizing. Science shows what your spirit already feels. Deception consumes energy, warping thought and wearing the body down faster than honesty ever could. That exhaustion explains why this person is collapsing now. Their strategy did not fail because they were unlucky. It failed because falsehoods are costly to sustain. They believed themselves clever, but cleverness that depends on illusion becomes a prison. Each fabricated corner tightens until the builder finds themselves trapped inside their own design. The collapse you witness is the natural consequence of a life built on sand. Thank you, chosen one, for standing witness. You are not a passive observer. By sharing this truth, you help the light reach others. Like and subscribe to amplify this message and to join the work of exposing darkness with steady light. Remember who you are in this moment. This drama is not idle gossip. It is a deliberate campaign to smear and mislead. Yet the deeper irony remains. The harder they pushed to cast you as villain, the clearer their reflection became. Their efforts to hide only revealed them. Their accusations were never honest words, they were projections, mirror images of the poison that lives inside them. Chosen one, watch how the universe works. What was hidden is being pushed toward the light. The mask they wore can no longer hold. Panic rises because the lies they hurled at you are snapping back like a lash against their own skin. Imagine a hand that throws mud. In the act of flinging filth, the thrower soils themselves more than the target. Every rumor, every whispered story meant to stain you has instead stained their reputation. Meanwhile, you move forward with increasing clarity. Their effort to make you look dangerous only revealed the danger inside them. Notice what their pleas reveal when they beg someone else to declare your innocence. It is not humility, but fear. They lack the courage to meet you because the collapse is not a sudden pang of conscience. It is raw, undeniable terror. They are confronting the consequences of waging war on something larger than their small schemes. This is not poetic vengeance, it is consequence. Wherever they turn, the cost of their deception waits. The universe has been your ally long before this moment, and now it simply aligns events so the truth becomes public and unavoidable. And here's the deeper turn: their attacks, intended to break you, have instead awakened you. Each blow stirred strengths you had not realized were there: clarity, endurance, a steadiness of spirit. What they meant as your ruin has become the anvil on which you are forged. Clarity you never knew you could touch now becomes your closest companion. Resilience arrives and makes you quietly magnetic, not in ways they can fathom, but in ways the universe intended. Their plotting acted like a whetstone. Every scheme sharpened you, honed your edges, made your presence cut through doubt. It is almost poetic. Jealousy gave you wings, deception handed you wisdom, betrayal gifted you power. What is happening now is more than exposure. It is the unmaking of their entire playbook. First obsession, then fabrication, then collapse. A pattern they thought they controlled, now unspooling in predictable sequence. Each accusation was a mirror of their own hunger, every attack an admission of envy. Their attempts to break you only raised you higher. They are not stepping forward to heal. They're confessing because they have exhausted all hiding places. The truth forces its way out, not to punish you, but to reveal you, to show who you truly are apart from their story. You were never the villain in this. You were the test they could not pass, the reflection they refused to hold. By the time this ends, the evidence of their unraveling will read like testimony. What was meant to bury you planted you deeper instead, and from that depth, your growth bursts through in ways no lie can stop. The very things they used to diminish you become the pillars of your rise. So before we press on, ask yourself, are you ready to feel every layer of what's been whispered behind your back? If you sense the shift, drop 777 below to mark it. If this lands with you, support the mission, like share or leave a super thanks. Every small push keeps the light moving and lets the truth reach souls who need it. Now, chosen one, stay with me. The revelations ahead are not empty words, they are a map. If you are truly chosen, you will feel a pull to follow it through to the end. They are confirmations of what your spirit already suspected, small, undeniable echoes that call you closer. Lean in, chosen one. Stay with me. What follows will not only explain why they plead for someone to clear your name, it will show how their fall has become the ladder by which you rise. First, the predator in the shadows. Jealous eyes do more than watch, they stalk. Long before you sensed conflict, they were already charting your life, not with admiration but with hunger. Think of a vulture circling a body that has not yet fallen. That is the posture of predation, not curiosity. They observed you with the cold, focused patience of a starving wolf because your very presence revealed everything they lacked. You moved through your days unaware, simply being yourself, while somewhere nearby a person catalogued your smallest moves like pieces of a puzzle. You were not their rival, you were their benchmark. Doors that opened for you slammed shut for them. People were drawn to your energy while their presence was merely tolerated. Each achievement of yours felt to them like salt pressed into a sore. Here's the truth they do not admit. This is not about failure in the usual sense. Psychologists name it relative deprivation, a pain born not from objective lack, but from constant comparison. You became the mirror that measured their lack, the proof that fortune or favor flows differently for you. And that unbearable comparison turned admiration into malice and attention into a plan. And that truth burned deeper than mere failure. It pierced the fragile pride they mistook for strength. Each moment of your rise was a quiet dagger to their ego, and so they stayed silent, nursing that pain until silence curdled into obsession. Ask the question that nags you. Why didn't they focus on themselves instead of draining energy watching you? Because envy is not a builder, it is a parasite. It does not labor to create, it leeches. Where you moved with alignment and doors opened, their efforts scattered like wind-tossed dust. Watching you was easier than learning the inner work they could not begin. See how that pattern escalates. Observation that begins as curiosity soon hardens into mimicry, and mimicry into theft of attention. They try to copy what cannot be copied, to reverse engineer what is lived rather than learned. Your natural resonance with the flow, the quiet, unteachable grace of alignment, is a reality they cannot replicate, and that impotence enrages them.
So their fixation shifted from watching to scheming.
Frustration bred restlessness. Restlessness bred imitation. Imitation exposed futility. Futility turned to fury. What began as silent surveillance became deliberate plotting, because obsession seeks a way to possess what it cannot become. Imagine their effort like someone trying to trap the wind in a jar, frantic, exhausting, always empty-handed. You, the wind, move and shape without effort. They exhaust themselves trying to hold what was never theirs to keep. And because they cannot touch your source, Their response is not growth, but sabotage, the attempt to dim a light they can neither kindle nor comprehend. They had already written their script of superiority, a neat story where they were the architects and you merely a footnote. Your existence tore that script to shreds. To them, you did not simply succeed, you exposed the lie they'd been living.
So they watched like predators, not out of curiosity, but because your life unraveled the comfortable fiction that sustained them.
Now let me turn that anguish into clarity. Chosen one. Obsession is an admission. When someone studies your smallest moves for years, it proves one thing above all: you matter. Your steps echo. Your presence registers. No one devotes that kind of attention to the ordinary. Their memorizing of your habits is proof not of your threat, but of your significance. Because of that significance, their imitation and surveillance became self-revelation. In trying to become you, they only showed how hollow their own way was. Their attempts to copy your flow exposed a lack of flow. Their shadowing erased their path. The predator became the prisoner, a person trapped by envy, pacing a cage of their own making with you as the mirror they could not smash. Take this in as fuel rather than wound. Every stare, every whispered plan, every silent watcher is a certificate of alignment, evidence that your life is moving with forces they cannot touch or learn. Their presence is background noise. Your movement through life is the signal. You did not merely survive their scrutiny, you were strengthened by it. Now that silence is breaking, those watchers are no longer merely observers. They are pleading, clawing for a narrative that will let them breathe. They beg someone to declare your innocence because the truth has cornered them. Their pleas are not repentance. They are surrender, the last resort of the exposed. Let that truth settle. Their unraveling is your testimony. The attention they gave you meant to diminish, instead confirms your power. Hold to that truth. Chosen one, their collapse is not the end of a story. It is the proof that your story was never theirs to write. They who once watched you with hungry eyes now search desperately for an escape from their own ruin. The predator in the shadows never understood that the true threat was not you. It was the reflection they saw in your life. They were not hunting prey, they were confronting the mirror of their weakness. That is why their ending can never be a victory. Every attempt to silence your light only engraved evidence of their undoing, and the universe turned their silence into proof of your inevitable ascent. Now, number 2, the twisted theater of jealousy. Jealousy does not merely resent your success, it rewrites your victories into crimes you never committed.
Chosen one, hear this plainly. Instead of learning, they weaponized.
Where you sowed effort and reaped blessing, they saw theft. In their warped ledger, your blessing was their deficit, and so they built a case to justify what their fear could not. Picture the neighbor who refuses to plant but curses your garden when it blooms. You tended your seeds. You did the work. They sat on the fence and called your harvest stolen. That absurdity is not innocent, it is strategic. They convince themselves that by pulling you down, your gains will leap into their hands. It is childish logic dressed in cruelty, and it becomes vicious when practiced long enough. This is the anatomy of their cruelty: refusal to grow, then the construction of an alternate story that makes their stagnation your crime. Their narrative is a rearguard operation against growth itself. In trying to rob you of dignity, they attempt to appropriate your life's evidence, your efforts, your doors, your light, and declare it illegitimate. But listen, the more they invent crimes, the more their theater collapses under its own improbability. The audience sees the seams. The act meant to shame you calls attention to their emptiness. Your innocence becomes clearer, not despite their lies, but because of them. The false accusations are the very proof that you walked a path they could not follow. Hold that truth close. Their theater of jealousy is loud and ugly. but it is brittle. With each accusation they stage, they reveal the tools they lack: courage, work, alignment. Your steady cultivation of life, quiet, patient, relentless, will outlast every lie they craft. Psychologists name it clearly: zero-sum bias, the poisonous belief that another's gain must be your loss. In small, fearful minds, there is no room for abundance. Your light becomes theft simply because they cannot imagine plenty. Your rise reads to them as defeat, and rather than examine their own stagnation, they cast their lack onto you. Why? Because learning from you would require humility and admission that you possess something they do not, that their map has been wrong. Their pride would not allow that confession, so they chose the coward's shortcut: turn admiration into accusation. Envy does not ask to be taught, it demands your ruin. And then the cruelty grew methodical. What began as bitter watching became careful collecting: notes, clips, whispered reports, a dark scrapbook stitched to prove a crime that never existed. They catalogued your life not to understand your work, but to manufacture evidence against you. Every genuine smile becomes manipulation. Every honest connection becomes a weapon in their narrative. So while you moved through life with authenticity, they were busy retelling it to fit their fear. Their archive of lies was meant to flip the story to make them the wounded and you the villain. But notice the pattern. Their effort to invent guilt only outlines the shape of your truth. Their documentation betrays their intent. The scrapbook becomes, in time, the record of their unraveling. They could not simply let you be because your success was more than achievement. It was a torment to their identity. Your name haunted their mornings, and your victories haunted their nights. Your presence became the persistent ache that reminded them of everything they refused to change. This is why their confession is revealing. It strips away pretense and shows obsession, not casual dislike. Jealousy, in their case, was admiration turned toxic gratitude refused, repayment demanded in ruin. Unable to say thank you or to learn, they inverted their attention into accusation. Every lesson you offered through living, every graceful choice, every open door they recast as evidence of crime. In their minds, study became strategy. If they could map your life, they could dismantle it. Yet mapping is not mastery. The thing you live cannot be captured on paper. Think of their effort like tracing smoke to find a flame. They copied outlines and notes, collected moments into a scrapbook, convinced that assembly would produce ownership. Instead, their archive only revealed absence. The more they documented, the less they touched the source. The more they imitated, the more your essence slipped beyond their reach. This failure is not happenstance. It is law. Energy does not transfer by theft. Alignment is not a coin you can pick up from another's table. Destiny is not a garment you can snatch and wear. Sabotage breaks things, reputations, plans, comfort, but it does not bind the true current that moves you. So they beg now, pleading for someone to declare what you already know you never sought to harm. Their pleas are not proof of remorse, but of running out of options. In their exhaustion, they expose the truth they tried to bury. You could not be diminished because what you carry cannot be stolen. The universe does not trade ruin for reward. Those who sought to destroy you found only their own undoing. In their attempt to drag you into the dirt, they revealed the hollowness beneath their feet. Now picture this, a person standing on a cliff, watching you ascend with wings. Instead of learning to build wings of their own, they reach out to pluck yours. The result is certain: they fall. Their confession makes this plain. They did not merely fail to steal your blessing, they sentenced themselves by choosing envy over growth. Envy observes only outcomes. It ignores the long nights, the private battles, the patient labor that birthed your success. Because they could not reproduce your way, they convinced themselves you did not deserve it. That is how their reason turned grotesque. Your triumphs became affronts, and your virtues became provocation. Now the truth is forcing its way into the open. Their invented narrative cannot hold because it was never founded on reality. The surveillance, the whisper campaigns, the attempts to ruin your name, all of it has collapsed beneath the weight of simple fact. You never sought to harm another. While they catalogued your life in hopes of building a case, the universe recorded theirs. Every jealous thought, every manipulative plan, every vain scheme is already bound into the ledger of cause and effect, and it is returning to them with full measure. So do not doubt. Do not question why you were chosen as a target. You were not marked because of weakness. You were marked because of strength. You carried abundance in a way they could not fathom, and that incomprehension turned into hostility. Stand in that truth. Let their downfall be the sign that what you live by cannot be taken, only revealed. But in truth, you were the mirror that reflected what they could not bear to see. Chosen one, their confession, is now the sound of envy devouring itself. Proof that your ascent was never theirs to command, and your blessings never theirs to steal. Number 3, digital daggers in the dark. Cowards avoid the field of honor. They retreat behind screens and strike with pixels instead of blades. Their envy could not be satisfied in daylight, so they carried their hatred into the online arena. Their confession makes this plain. They weaponized technology as a blunt instrument, hoping forged images and fabricated conversations would wound deeper than any reality. Imagine waking to a world that has been shown a counterfeit you. Photos altered, phrases twisted, timestamps rearranged your identity, hijacked by skilled fakery. They treated image editing like scripture, bending pixels into falsehoods and assembling deepfakes that portrayed crimes you never committed. Screenshots became their ammunition and social platforms their battlefield. To untrained observers, it looked persuasive. To the universe, it was absurd. No contrived digital shadow can rewrite the light you walk in. Why go so far? Because fear drives escalation. Gossip withers, fabricated evidence endures. They believed that manufactured proof would bury you for good. Psychologists call this escalation the moment envy convinces itself that ordinary sabotage is insufficient. So they authored entire alternate lives for you in order to justify their hatred. They raised whole ghost armies online, accounts born to spy, to amplify, to invent entire digital worlds where you wore the mask of villainy. They studied your language, your cadence, the rhythm of your replies, until they could imitate you with frightening accuracy. This was not idle gossip. It was psychological identity theft. It was an assault upon the soul of who you are. Yet here is the irony. Chosen one. While they polished the shadow, they neglected the substance. They believed that erasing your reflection would erase your being. They thought keystrokes could unmake you. They were wrong. Digital lies decay faster than the code used to forge them. Technology may shape fictions, but truth endures beyond every fabricated file. Each fake screenshot and false timestamp will, in time, read like a confession of desperation. Let them play at shadows. Shadows exist only because light is present. Your brightness is the reason theirs can no longer hide. Their phantom armies only testify that you cast a light strong enough to worry cowards. Now consider their cruelest turn. They turned innocence into ammunition. Only those of the lowest hearts hide steel beneath a child's smile. Chosen one, this is the darkest cut. They did not stop at attacking you. They reached for the purest ties that bind you. They dragged children and family into their campaign, using tenderness as cover for venom. Picture a family gathering, joy in the air, children at play. Then, like poison poured into a cup, the whispers begin. They are unstable. They are dangerous. They are a bad influence. They knew what they were doing. Nothing summons fear faster than a hint of harm to the young. They wagered on panic, trusting that alarm would turn kin against kin quicker than reason ever could. Understand this plainly. Their strategy was surgical because it preyed on instinct. It weaponized love. It sought to fracture trust by planting doubt where devotion should be. But this cruelty also exposes them. To attack what is most loved is to reveal how little love lives in the attacker. Hold to that truth. Their choice to use children and family as shields proves their moral vacancy. Your circle will see through the lie. The universe will not allow innocence to be held hostage forever. They sank to that depth out of cowardice. They understood they could not defeat you in open combat, so they struck where you seemed most vulnerable, within the circles of your love. They believed that by poisoning the places where you felt safest, you would buckle beneath the doubt. Yet they forgot a simple truth. Children perceive energy more clearly than most adults. They sense truth when words lie. The little ones they tried to weaponize recoiled, instinctively sensing the darkness in the manipulator's presence. This is the law of consequence. When envy reaches into innocence, it signs its own death warrant. Their scheme misfired with exacting justice. As they attempted to soil your name, their own homes began to bleed. Fights erupted. Bonds loosened. Relationships fractured beneath the same rot they had spread. Even their children turned away, restless and wary, because the universe does not permit the exploitation of purity without response. Picture it plainly. They set out to arm the young against you, and instead fired those arms back into their own ranks. Each attempt to twist a young mind became a mirror that reflected their toxicity right into their household. Rather than isolating you, their tactics isolated them. Their lowest act turned into their heaviest burden. So let this settle in your spirit, chosen one. By using innocence as a shield, they showed the world who they truly are. Their whispers could not bury the root of truth. The confession you now hear is the evidence. They were not merely jealous. They were desperate enough to play with fire in the most unforgivable way. They set their own house ablaze. Now the flames return to cleanse them. Number 5, the puppet master's web. Manipulators do not merely utter falsehoods. They construct entire stages where every part is acted except the truth. Chosen one, their confession strips away the mask. This was never idle rumor. It was calculated warfare, planned like a campaign. They refused the small cruelty of whispering. Instead, they posed as the caring friend, the vigilant relative, the sensible bystander. To your partner, they warned of danger. To your companions, they posed as reason. To your family, they spoke from feigned concern. Each role was cast to mislead. Picture a patient spider, laying silk strand after strand until a trap forms. Methodical and cold, that was their movement, placing doubt where it would snag those who love you. They did not present truths, they staged them. Every sentence was performance. Every gesture, a pre-written cue. Yet artifice cannot hide forever. When a stage is built on falsehood, seams appear. Those seams showed quickly. People began to sense inconsistencies. Questions surfaced. Why does the story shift? Why so much eagerness to prove a point? Their fabrications multiplied until the performance became heavy and clumsy. They juggled doctored images, planted dialogues, manufactured crises, and then they needed lists and spreadsheets just to track their fiction. Who devotes that much labor to inventing another life unless consumed by obsession? Here is the harsh truth. Controllers lose control to the myths they spin. In trying to shape perception, they exposed the hand that moves the strings. Those who once listened began to doubt. The theater they staged collapsed under its own complexity, and their role unraveled with it. Hold this close, chosen one. Their web was meant to trap you. Instead, it revealed them. Every artifice they crafted now reads as evidence of manufacture. The confession you hear is not a plea for mercy. It is the final curtain call for a performance that always belonged to the actors, not the truth. They who once listened without question began to perceive a pattern. Obsession leaves traces. Only a mind possessed undertakes such exhaustive measures to rewrite reality. Chosen one, lean closer. Their confession reveals the cause. They were not protectors. They were puppeteers. They were not concerned. They were consumed. The web they wove did not ensnare you. It strangled them. Consider why their net failed. A web may catch for an instant, but truth is a force that stretches beyond fragile threads. Each false filament carried its own weight until the whole structure tore. Their meticulous plotting became the same instrument that exposed them. Their confession is proof. They were actors in a theater of fabrication, not guardians of truth. Now turn your ear to a darker tactic, poisoning the garden of the heart. Envy does more than wish your ruin. It seeks to rewrite your love story and steal the chapters that belong to you. Hear this plainly. The vilest assault is the one launched against what you cherish most. They chose to cut where you live, to plant doubt inside the sanctuary of intimacy. They began with whispers, subtle and steady. Into your partner's ear, they sowed suspicion, then watered those seeds with lies until doubt took root. They did not merely spread gossip. They manufactured proof counterfeit messages, staged discoveries, forged screenshots, arranging false evidence so your beloved would stumble into belief as if they had found the truth themselves. This was ambush disguised as revelation. Picture your relationship as a cultivated garden. You tended it with patience. You guarded its soil. Then, in the night, an intruder scatters weeds among the seedlings. Each morning you wake and wonder why the roots struggle, never seeing the saboteur at work. That is what they intended, to choke your joy, to poison possibility before it could grow. They did not stop at what you had. They reached toward what you might yet receive. Every potential partner, every budding connection, they moved to contaminate before it could bloom. Yet this cruelty reveals the depth of their fear. They cannot create love, so they seek to steal it. Hold this truth close, chosen one. Their attempt to corrupt your heart exposed them more than it harmed you. The very tactic meant to isolate you became the mirror that showed their own moral vacancy. The confession you hear now is the record of their undoing. They spread rumors like venom, driving away those who might have brought light and joy into your life. In the cruelest turns, they staged themselves as the savior, crafting love triangles from falsehood so they could appear the rescuer. In truth, they were the arsonists who started the fire. Manipulators do not seek love, they seek possession. Their aim was control, not care. Because love cannot be forged, their plan failed. Genuine connection does not collapse beneath counterfeit screenshots and invented scandals. The very attacks meant to sever your bonds acted instead as a sieve. The weak links broke, the pretenders fell away, and what remained was the steadfast. Those meant to stand beside you were revealed by the trial. Do not count their sabotage as loss. Think of it as the pruning that makes room for what will grow true. Their lies crossed out false names and cleared the path for the right people to enter. The confession you now hear confirms this. They did not destroy your love life. They purified it. Number 7, battling the light they could not touch. Envy does not stop at your reputation. When it cannot steal your name, it reaches for your soul. Chosen one, their confession shows how far their obsession traveled. Lies, gossip, fake evidence, and online attacks failed to break you. So they escalated into darker arts, not to build, but to corrupt. They became scavengers of shadow, seeking tools to bend energies against you. Imagine someone staring at your light the way a thief eyes a vault. They do not learn to create a light of their own. They hunt for counterfeit keys in grimy corners, hoping one will turn. Their search was not study, it was theft by proxy. Understand the pattern. When enemies cannot mimic your flow, they try to hijack the forces that sustain it. They grasp for shortcuts, for borrowed rituals, for hollow ceremonies that promise power without work. But energy is not a garment to be stolen. Alignment is not a relic to be claimed. What you live cannot be copied by counterfeit rites. And so their final attempts only revealed their ignorance. The more they reached for dark methods, the clearer it became that they lacked the grace you embody. Their spiritual scams disintegrated under the weight of truth. The universe refuses to be manipulated by fear. Chosen one, take heart. Their escalation proves not your weakness, but their desperation. Every scheme that failed is a testimony to the integrity of your path. Stay rooted. The light that draws their covetous gaze is the same light that protects and restores. The confession you hear is their undoing and your vindication. Rituals, curses, incantations, they tried every dark shortcut. They sought out practitioners, whispered into empty corners, and hurled spiritual darts believing they could bleed you dry, uproot your blessings, and halt your momentum. But the deeper truth stands. Destiny is not a thing to be stolen. You cannot harvest a fate that never flowed toward you. Every attempt to bind your future rebounded. Each ritual recoiled upon its author. Every curse snapped like a brittle cord. Where they expected results, they found rupture. Technology, too, turned against their plot. Files glitched. Edits corrupted. Contradictions multiplied until their narrative collapsed under its own contradictions. Small coincidences revealed larger truths, and what they intended to bury rose instead. Their nights became the mirror of their crime. They fell into fevered sleep, haunted by visions of you radiant and untouchable, surrounded by forces they could neither name nor command. Paranoia set in. They grew sick with the knowledge that they were not opposing a single person, but a law that governs all things. The harder they struck, the more plainly they discovered the impossibility of stealing what was governed by alignment. Listen to this plainly, chosen one. Energy is faithful to its source. You cannot redirect a current you do not own. You cannot weaponize powers you do not understand. The universe does not bend to bitterness. It bows only to alignment. While you remained rooted in your path, they remained entangled in obsession, and that obsession became the furnace that burned them. Their confession lays this bare. In striving to touch your spirit, they only scorched themselves. They were not battling you. They were contending with light itself. Each blow returned to them, leaving them more broken than before. Number 8, when the universe responds, every lie you cast at the light returns as a blade aimed at your own throat. The most chilling detail of their confession is this: the cosmos intervened directly. This was not slow fate. It was immediate, precise, and indisputable. Phones failed at the exact moment, forged screenshots were produced. Computers froze mid-edit, as if the files rejected their poison. Networks dropped as they pressed publish. These were not mere glitches. These were not mere glitches. They were warnings dispatched by a law older than their intent. Picture a person attempting to fire a weapon only for the barrel to twist and aim back at their own chest. Each act of digital sabotage turned into a mirror that revealed them. Every lie they cast at you summoned an inconvenient truth about themselves. The attempt to bury you became a lamp illuminating their corruption. It was balance, plain and immutable. Cause returned to its source. Echoes came back as answers. Forces beyond their comprehension were at work. Energy never vanishes. It rebounds. The ricochet struck them with a force they did not foresee. Their bodies began to bear the consequence of their malice. Unexplained bruises appeared. Illnesses leached their strength. Reflections in glass grew strange and accusing. Nightmares seized their sleep. The very curses they hoped would land on you instead poisoned their own veins. Understand this: The backlash was precise because lies are inherently unstable. Fabrications demand fuel, constant tending, endless upkeep. Truth sustains itself without labor. The moment they stepped into falsehood, they entered quicksand. Every frantic thrash only drew them deeper. They were not merely opposed to you. They were contesting the cosmic ledger of balance, and no human craft can prevail against that law. Let this settle in your spirit. Each attack was the instrument of their undoing. Each plotted scheme became the scaffold of their collapse. Their confession proves they did not simply fail against you. They failed against the very architecture of justice woven into reality. They thought they were cursing you. In truth, they were writing their own sentence, marked by one glitch, one failure, one bruise at a time. Now behold number 9, the moment the mask shattered. A lie may run fast for a season, but truth is patient and it will always overtake. Their confession admits what you have seen. The collapse was not slow and polite. It was sudden, severe, and relentless. The house of cards they had engineered through months and years of labor fell in a single gust of truth. Those who had been pulled into the performance began to compare notes. Contradictions spread. Timelines failed to align. Stories that had been carefully stitched together began to unravel. Evidence once claimed to be solid dissolved like smoke at the opening of the window. What remained was the plain clarity of reality, and that clarity exposed the theater of their deceit. Even the ally they relied on as a shield began to ask questions no answer could satisfy. That moment marked the turning. Picture a play rehearsed to perfection, lights up, actor poised, lines memorized. Then, mid-speech, the curtain tears, the lamps fail, and the audience sees the wires, the harnesses, the cheap scenery. What once appeared masterful is exposed as artifice. Their staged drama dissolved in plain daylight. This undoing did not arrive by ordinary investigation. Truth requires no detective when alignment does the revealing. Dreams, sudden intuitions, and uncanny coincidences began to pull back the veil. People who once accepted the story found themselves struck by visions and gut certainties pointing toward the true deceiver. The universe murmured into willing ears, and when that kind of revelation lands, no mask, no forged paper, no rehearsed testimony can endure. Worse for them, betrayal came from within their own circle. Those they counted as loyal, quietly gathered proof. Screenshots, voice clips, notes kept in silence, all archived for the moment when the performance would be unmasked. Their supposed allies were not defenders but waiting witnesses. At the appointed hour, they flipped the script, releasing what had long been hidden. Understand this clearly, chosen one. Their collapse was not random misfortune. It was justice performed by the very structure they built. A house of lies decays from the inside because falsehood sits on shifting sand. When those around them stopped pretending, the whole edifice gave way. Let that settle in you. The people they thought they controlled became the instruments of their exposure. The narrative they hoped to fix forever was torn apart by the steady hand of reality. Their confession is the echo of that collapse, a final, unmistakable proof that deception cannot hold where truth is aligned. They did not merely loosen a mask, the mask shattered. Number 10, when the law came knocking. Falsehoods do more than erode trust. They trespass, and every trespass has a price to pay. Chosen one, listen closely. Their confession makes the crossing plain. What began as manipulation spilled into crimes with real consequences. Identity theft, defamation, harassment. What once looked like cunning turned into prosecutable conduct. When boundaries meant to protect others were trampled, the matter left whispers and entered courtrooms. Picture the scene. Someone plays with sparks, thinking them harmless, until the smallest ember becomes a blaze that consumes the house. So it was with their lies and technology. Their deceit spread outward, setting fire to networks of friendship and reputation, until those who'd been targeted stopped shrinking back. Victims became plaintiffs. Screenshots, recordings, sworn statements stacked like mortar, building a legal wall that enclosed the architect of the scheme. Reputation is fragile as glass. Once cracked, it never regains its original clarity. Social ruin followed legal peril. Rumors turned into warnings. Colleagues stepped away. Friends murmured caution. A name that once opened doors began closing them instead. The work of years decayed in weeks. Respect vanished, and avoidance took its place. Exposure, not defense, became their new reality. And every attempt to defend only deepened the collapse. Each excuse contradicted another. Each justification added weight to the papers already piled against them. Did they try to rewrite the script? Yes. They clawed and invented new falsehoods to cover old ones. They begged, they schemed, they attempted to reshape perception. But law and truth are not so easily bent. Understand this, chosen one. The end was neither accidental nor merciful. It was accountability. Their confession is the echo of statutes and testimonies, of evidence that could no longer be denied. One misstep led to another, until consequence arrived in both social and legal form. Their story closes, not with cleverness, but with the finality of formal judgment. Hold to that certainty. Where they sought to evade consequence, justice found purchase. Where they aimed to bury you, the law and the world stood to reveal them. Their downfall is not merely personal ruin. It is the practical demonstration that falsehoods carry costs, and that the structures protecting the innocent are awake and answering. They believed their deception would last forever. Yet every falsehood carries an expiry. Truth endures, lies decay. As the facts stood firm, their excuses crumbled like dust. Let this be clear. The universe not only balances energy, it enforces consequence. Socially, they became pariahs. Legally, they became liabilities. Financially, they bled beneath the weight of lawsuits and fees. They thought they could bend reality without cost. Reality returned with interest. Their confession reveals the endgame. Manipulation is not power. It is a prison, and now they sit behind its bars. Number 11, the mind that consumed itself. Envy is not merely an affliction cast outward. It eats the heart of the one who harbors it. When the empire of lies collapsed, so too did the fragile mind that built it. Their confession shows that exposure did more than topple schemes. It stripped the mask away. With nothing left to hide behind, no one saw a victim. They saw an obsessed, jealous, and dangerous individual. Picture this, an actor who has rehearsed a part so long they forget the face beneath the mask. Then, in the middle of the play, the costume is torn away. The role evaporates. What remains is a trembling, desperate fraud. That is what the world saw when the curtain fell. The persona of protector vanished, and the unstable self stood revealed. Obsession is an invisible cage. They built it with their own hands and then locked themselves inside. Their fixation became public currency, whispered as warning in circles they once commanded. Respect evaporated. Curiosity turned to scrutiny. Every gesture became evidence of instability. Hold this together with what you already know, chosen one. Their undoing was not only the collapse of a plot, it was the unmaking of a mind. Where once they schemed in shadow, now their ruin stands as testimony. Envy does not merely harm its target. It devours the soul of the envious until nothing of truth remains. They were a mirror you never asked to hold, yet one that revealed what they refused to face. Now, chosen one, Their confession is the sound of envy devouring itself, proof that your ascent was never theirs to command and your blessings were never theirs to steal. Number 12, crying at the gates. Those who dig graves for others discover at last that they cannot bury themselves without invitation. Their final act is not triumph, but panic. They are not confessing from a heart of remorse. They confess because they are drowning. Every assault they launched has come back louder, heavier, sharper than when it was sent. The isolation they hoped to gift you now binds them. The reputational stains they tried to nail to your door are branded upon their own name, burned in place. Their life unravels, thread by thread, with no hand left to sew it back together. Picture the puppeteer who spent years pulling cords, only to become ensnared by those same strings, gagged by the web they wove. That is their present. Allies have vanished. Reputation is ash. Power has gone out like a candle in a storm. Why did this ruin arrive so fully? Because obsession thrives on secrecy. It survives in shadow. When the light shines, the lie wilts. Their rituals, their manipulations, their contorted reasoning all withered when exposed to plain sight. Exposure did more than tarnish a name. It split their identity, the role they had rehearsed until it felt like truth crumbled, leaving only the raw fact of their jealousy. Hear this plainly, chosen one. They set out to author your demise, but in doing so, they scripted their own collapse. Their story is no longer a tale of dominion. It is a caution burned into the world, a public lesson about what becomes of those whose envy turns to war. Warfare eats its own commander. Their confession proves that they did not merely fail against you. They failed against themselves. So let this be the closing echo. Their gates are closed, not by the justice of men alone, but by the inexorable accounting of the universe. Where they sought to bury light, they found their own graves. Where they sought to silence you, they became the ones who now cry at the gates, begging not for mercy, but for a reprieve they no longer deserve. And now, in their panic, they flail. They draft hollow apologies, book sessions with dubious practitioners, and perform cleansings they do not trust. They attempt the same manipulations on the cosmos that they used against people. Yet the universe is not fooled. It does not respond to crocodile tears or staged repentance. It answers only to truth. Mercy is not something one begs for. It is something one earns. That truth escapes them. They treated contrition as another disguise to wear when the heat became unbearable. But the universe reads intent like an X-ray. It sees hollow words and performs surgical judgment. Nothing they attempt restores what they broke. Each ritual drains them further. Each plea bounces back into silence. They are no longer confronting you. They are confronting balance itself. Ask why they plead now. Because they have finally felt the load they tried to throw onto you. Sleepless nights, paranoia, public shame, crushing loneliness. All the torments they wished upon you have become their daily weather. They are haunted not by you, but by their own deeds. Hear this clearly, chosen one. Their confession is not a redemption story. It is the sound of collapse. They are not seeking forgiveness. They are seeking escape. The gates they slammed against you now close around them, and the universe has discarded the key. Number 13, rising from the ashes they ignited. They attempted to bury you, unaware you were a seed. Their confession is proof beyond doubt. While they drown in the chaos of their own design, you ascend. Every dart they hurled became a lesson. Every blow meant to break you became the resistance that forged your strength. You do not simply survive. You grow. What was meant to end you instead nourished you. Stand in that knowledge. Your rise is the witness to their ruin, and the life you build from these ashes will be the final testimony that truth endures and falsehood collapses. They believed their blows would crumble you. In truth, they only awakened the sleeping strength inside. Chosen one, this is the pattern. Pressure reveals power. Picture a blacksmith at his forge. Each hammer strike appears to punish the iron, yet every strike shapes it. Sparks fly. What looks like damage is actually the making of something whole and sharp. Their attacks felt like injury to you, but the universe treated them as refinement. From their hatred rose not a broken spirit, but a blade of light. Betrayal forged your boundaries. From their treachery, you learned who deserves your energy and who does not. Deception taught your intuition. Lies became the whetstone that sharpened your discernment. You stand now taller and more precise, rooted to a current they cannot name. Every scheme they launched drove you deeper into alignment. Doors opened that were never theirs to pass through. New opportunities arrived that their interference could not block, because those gifts were meant for you alone. Genuine relationships formed, steady and true, bonds their world could not reach. Your spiritual sight has widened. Illusions fall away before they touch you. You are not merely surviving. You are thriving, radiant, and ascending. If they achieved anything, it was the opposite of their intent. They did not weaken you. They introduced you to your higher self. They did not trap you. They launched you. Their hatred became your soil. Their lies became your rain. Their envy became the storm. From that very storm you rose, unshaken, blooming into a presence they cannot look at without trembling. You were not hardened despite their assault. You were honed by it. Let this be carved. Their ruin lit the flame of your ascent, and their fall became the sound of your breakthrough. While they cry for mercy amid the ruins of their own making, you, chosen one, rise in strength, grace, and purpose untouched, inexorable, undeniable. Now attend the final act. Truth crowned you from the first. The greatest proof of innocence is when accusers are driven to confess. In this last admission, their story breaks open. Their final words wound no one but themselves. For in confessing, they only repeat what the universe has long declared: you were never the offender. Every allegation, every projection, every contrived plot was a mirror of their corruption. Your uneasy instincts about them were true. Every boundary you set was necessary. Picture this moment as if in a courtroom where the accuser becomes both prosecutor and witness. After years of laboring to bury you, they crumble and declare the truth before all. They thought they were writing your epitaph. Instead, they composed the testimony that frees you. Their falsehoods were meant to stain your name. Their own words have become the seal of your vindication. Know this plainly, chosen one. The truth does not merely defend, it elevates. Their confession does not alter your essence. It confirms it. It proves you were never the villain, never the threat, never the deceitful one. You were the light that exposed them, and the fact that they must surrender proves your power could not be touched. Their surrender is complete. Their confession is final. Strange and bitter as it seems, even in their collapse, they serve you. Their admission becomes your shield and your crown. The revelation releases many. It frees the harmed, it unmasks the false, and it restores the order that envy attempted to overturn. Hold this as your closing truth. Where they plotted ruin, you sprouted renewal. Where they staked claims of victory, you stood vindicated. Their downfall is not merely punishment. It is the final chapter that proves what you have always known in your spirit. You are cleared. You are crowned. You are set forward into the life meant for you. Freedom can feel like punishment to one who has lived too long beneath the weight of falsehood. Yet listen, chosen one, this is not an end. It is the spark that begins a new chapter. You were tested in darkness, and you emerged as light. You were assailed by lies, and you stood forth as truth. Where they cast you as villain, you have been revealed as the hero. Know this with certainty. You are innocent. You are guarded. You are appointed to greater things that no smear, no conspiracy, no campaign of hatred can prevent. The blows that aimed to break you became the hammer that shaped you. The betrayals that sought to bury you instead planted the seed from which you now rise. Remember who moves with you. The universe writes the final line in every story. Through their confession, the cosmos has already spoken. This moment of exposure was never merely your vindication. It was the declaration of your destiny. You are chosen. Your hour is come. Stand now in that truth. Walk forward in strength, in grace, and in purpose. Let their collapse mark the threshold where your rise becomes unstoppable. Nothing can delay what has been written.